This is a stimulus update and daily news report, and a deal has been made. Mitch McConnell offers a deal to the Democrats for a short-term debt ceiling extension, meaning that it would go past the October 18th deadline, and Democrats could figure out a way to raise the debt ceiling past that deadline. Democrats accept this offer from Mitch McConnell. I'll give you all the details on what's going on with that. Former President Trump not too happy with Mitch McConnell because he is working with the Democrats to raise the debt ceiling. I'll give you more details on that whole situation. When it comes to the $3.5 trillion reconciliation stimulus, Joe Manchin is not too happy with all the press that he's been getting from Bernie Sanders, and he responds to Bernie Sanders and says that he is sticking to his $1.5 trillion number and calls Bernie Sanders his entitlement society. Bernie Sanders responds to Joe Manchin. They have kind of a public back and forth. I'll play you the video clips of what was said. Then I'll answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Hope you're having a terrific Thursday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell offers short-term debt ceiling extension following pressure from Biden. So up until this point, Mitch McConnell has said that he is not working with the Democrats. It's up to the Democrats to figure it out on their own. Democrats have said that the reconciliation process will be too long and they won't meet that October 18th deadline. So this is the deal that Mitch McConnell is offering. So Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on Wednesday offered a short-term suspension of the U.S. debt ceiling to avert national default, saying, "We will also allow Democrats to use normal procedures to pass an emergency debt limit extension at a fixed dollar amount." The stopgap offer from McConnell would take some pressure off of both parties to reach a compromise by October 18th, when the government is expected to default. So basically, all this is doing is delaying the inevitable. It's delaying that deadline. Kind of like the government funding. The government did not shut down, but it's still a problem that needs to be solved in the future. And as we know in Congress, just as if there is a homework assignment due 2 months away, they're going to wait until the last night to get it done. That's just how they function. So what he said here is, to protect what Mitch McConnell said, to protect the American people from a near-term Democratic-created crisis, we will also allow Democrats to use normal procedures to pass an emergency debt limit extension at a fixed dollar amount to cover current spending levels into December. So I love how he threw that in there, Democrat-created crisis. So he's going to help out, but he had to poke a little bit at the Democrats. Basically, this is just going to extend it until December. It is not solving the problem. It's basically putting a Band-Aid on the issue. This will moot Democrats' excuses about the time crunch they created and give the unified Democratic government more than enough time to pass standalone debt limit legislation through reconciliation. So basically, Mitch McConnell is saying, hey, Democrats, I know you're fighting a lot, but I'm giving you a little bit of time to figure out this process. You need to raise the debt ceiling. We're going to cover the expenses until December. And Democrats, you better raise this debt ceiling through reconciliation, because the Republicans are not going to help you after that. That's basically what Mitch McConnell is saying. And this is what how the White House responded, saying, "My understanding is that there has been no formal offer made. A press release is not a formal offer, and regardless, even the scant details that have been reported present a more complicated, more difficult option than the one that is quite obvious." Basically, the one that is quite obvious is just having the Republicans and Democrats raise the debt ceiling as they have been every single year, but the Republicans are not too happy about the $3.5 trillion in spending that may be coming around the corner. So they're holding this debt ceiling kind of as hostage. It's just kind of like a bargaining chip for leverage, which is, potentially holding the whole country by hostage and could cause a lot of problems. So what's going on with this deal? Well, the Democrats say they will accept McConnell debt ceiling offer. And so this is just, as I mentioned, just a temporary solution. So this is what they're saying here is, in terms of a temporary lifting of the debt ceiling, we view that as a victory, a temporary victory with more work to do. Basically, they're sweeping the problem under the rug. Still need to solve that problem. It's just delaying it a little more. So it could cause more conflict in the future. Former President Trump accuses McConnell of folding on debt ceiling. What he said is, Looks like Mitch McConnell is folding to the Democrats again. He's got all of the cards with the debt ceiling. It's time to play the hand. Don't let them destroy our country. Let me know your thoughts on all this down in the comments below. To me, as an independent, not taking a Republican or Democrat side, I think it just makes common sense to raise the debt ceiling. It's on the past debts, not what's going to happen in the future. And to politicize it and use it as a tool for either side just makes no sense. So this comment from former President Trump, it's just kind of showing like the political games behind it as opposed to just raising the debt ceiling so that a lot of American lives are not affected. I understand that the Republicans are not too happy with the trillions in spending that the Democrats are doing, but when it comes to the debt ceiling, it's really a bipartisan issue and shouldn't be a Democrat or Republican thing. Let me know your thoughts on that. Maybe I'm wrong. That's from my independent perspective. So Chuck Schumer wants deal on details of spending package within a matter of days. So now that we're talking about the $3.5 trillion package, Nancy Pelosi said the deadline is going to be October 31st. Chuck Schumer's like, no, we want this in days, not weeks. Days, not weeks. So Chuck Schumer and the Senate, the entire Senate, both Democrats and Republicans, are leaving for their recess, their state work period or vacation, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the week. So after the 8th, they're going to be out of town, which means that they would have to get this done by tomorrow if he's serious about getting it done within this week with days, not weeks. Unless they're going to do it on their vacation when they're out, which is highly unlikely. So it looks like it's going to be dragged out a little longer. Joe Manchin said again he won't go higher than $1.5 trillion on his party's social spending bill. Here's a video clip from Joe Manchin giving a statement about where he stands on all this.
Let me make very clear on some things, and so you all know where we are. I'm going to make a statement, and I'm not going to take any questions because I think my statement will speak for itself. And I know you all have a job to do, and actually I really respect that and appreciate it. I know during the day you always want me to say something. I always try to accommodate everybody I can. I'm not going to be speaking after this today, or I think we just got to let it go where it's going to go, and hopefully we do the right thing. Let me make it very clear. There's been a lot of speculation about what number on reconciliation. My number has been 1.5. I've been very clear, and I think you all have gotten an outline of how I got to 1.5. I think it's very important we understand that we need to do a tax reform to make sure the wealthiest, that got the best advantages, the biggest advantages from the 2017 tax cuts pay their fair share. I think the corporations that enjoy this great country and the comfort and the protection of this great country pay their fair share. I think also we have to make sure that we're committed to children at the beginning of life, that we can help them, and also our seniors at the end of life, that we can give them the dignity and the quality of life of living in your home if you desire to do that. These are all things we can set priorities. This is not a heavy lift. I think also lowering the price of drugs. It makes no sense at all that we don't go out and negotiate. The VA does a tremendous job. Medicaid does it. Why doesn't Medicare? These are things we all can agree on very easily. And also, I've been very clear when it comes to who we are as a society, who we are as a nation, and why we are still the hope of the world. I don't believe that we should turn our society into an entitlement society. I think that we should still be a compassionate, rewarding society. I think that fares best for all of us. But compassion means taking care of those who can't take care of themselves, whether they're young, whether they've had some type of a challenge in life, whether it be mental or physical. Those are responsibilities that we have, and we can all meet those responsibilities. And I feel very strongly about that. And we will continue. This is going to take time to get this done. Getting it done quickly is not going to benefit anybody. So let's make sure that we do it and do it right.
What are your thoughts on what Joe Manchin has to say, saying that Bernie Sanders is kind of creating an entitlement society? So Joe Manchin says Bernie Sanders wants entitlement society as West Virginia lawmaker holds up popular Democratic spending bill. Yeah, so it's all on Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. They're holding up that big bill. Not sure if this is planned or not, but it's kind of playing out as a soap opera. So also, Bernie Sanders is not too happy about Joe Manchin. Sanders criticizes Manchin's use of entitlement society and pushes for specifics in negotiations. So here is a video clip of Bernie Sanders responding to Joe Manchin that same day, which was yesterday, kind of going back and forth. Here is Bernie Sanders' clip of that.
I was struck by the fact that after you gave your press conference today and talked about Senator Manchin by name in such specific terms, he put out a statement saying that you and he have very different political beliefs and that he thinks that you want America to be an entitlement society where he doesn't want that. He wants what he called a compassionate and rewarding society. It's an unusual dynamic playing out sort of effectively through the press. Both you at this press conference and him in this written statement today. Are the two of you going to eventually get together face to face and talk this out personally? Will that part of be the way this resolves?
Well, it's not just me. We do meet. He's part of leadership. I'm part of the Democratic leadership. Every week we sit down, and these issues do coming up. I'm not quite sure, and we need Mr. Manchin, Senator Manchin, to help us out here, what a compassionate and rewarding society it's about. Does that mean addressing the reality that 600,000 people in America are homeless? Does it mean dealing with the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality that we have? Does it mean, dealing with the fact that 1 out of 4 Americans can't fill the prescriptions that their doctors write because the price of drugs in this country is in some cases 10 times higher than it is in Canada and other countries? So we need some specificity. Now, he wants to say, I believe in an entitlement society. I would not look at it, use that phraseology. I do believe in a nation based on economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. Yeah, frankly, I admit it. You got it right here on your show. I believe that all Americans are entitled as human beings to health care. I believe people are entitled to quality education regardless of their income. I believe that people are entitled to affordable housing. I don't believe that 2 people are entitled to own more wealth than the bottom 40% of American society. And by the way, one of the things that's playing out here, Rachel, I don't think the media has paid appropriate attention to it, is in the midst of all of this, the ruling class of this country, and that is the drug companies, the insurance companies, fossil fuel industry, they're spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Pharmaceutical industry has 1,500 paid lobbyists on Capitol Hill, 3 lobbyists for every member of Congress, so that we don't raise prescription drugs. So this is a pivotal moment in American history, it seems to me, really. And I'm going to continue to fight, as I have for working families, and do my best to prevent this country from moving in an authoritarian direction, because you've got so many people out there. They're working long hours for lower wages. Their kids are going nowhere in a hurry. They can't take care of their parents. And they are saying, does the United States government care about me, or are they only worried about their campaign contributions from wealthy individuals? So this is not only trying to improve life for working families who are really struggling to keep their ends together. It is whether or not we retain a democracy in which government works for all and not just the very wealthy and the powerful.
What are your thoughts on what Bernie Sanders has to say? Very powerful words there, basically talking about his colleagues getting millions of dollars in campaign contributions, which is the whole corruption in our government. Talking about how the pharmaceutical industry has 1,500 lobbyists. Basically, those are the ones who are going up to Congress members saying, hey, here's $10,000 towards your campaign contribution so you could go for re-election. Just don't raise the prices on drugs. It's kind of crazy how that works. Let me know your thoughts on all that. Next, I'm going to answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Brenda Adams, what about stimulus? Not getting this now? Yeah, so when it comes to a 4th stimulus check, unfortunately, it is not in that $3.5 trillion package. They're still working out the details, but no politicians have mentioned it lately, and we're coming down to the wire of things getting done. So unfortunately, no 4th stimulus check in there. Russell Young, Why do you not answer the questions people send to you? Yeah, so past few videos, they've been so packed and I didn't want to make the videos longer than they had to be. So I cut out the questions portion, but I'm going to start bringing that back in now. Also, you asked, why is, speaking of Manchin, why is his wife getting $1 billion? That money could go to SSD, SSI, RR, VA. Yeah, I agree. So Joe Manchin causing a lot of problems, and I feel like this isn't publicized enough that his wife is getting $1 billion in that Part 1 infrastructure, not in her pocket, but going to her commission, Appalachian Commission. Next question comes from Lisa Johnson. What happened to all of us that's retired and getting Social Security or widow's pension or disability? If they don't do what they have to do, you're going to have a lot more homelessness and jobless people floating around. I agree. They're just kind of sitting on their hands. They're not really taking action. They're not helping the people as much as they should, especially when they made a lot of promises. A lot of promises have been made, so people's expectations were high, and those expectations are not being met. It's different if they didn't make all these promises, but yeah, I agree. They're really slacking there. Anyways, that is all the stimulus news I have for you today to hopefully brighten your day a bit.